In the annals of the Intergalactic Council, amidst treaties forged and wars averted, there persisted a singular edict, ancient and unyielding: never touch a human child. It was a law whispered across star systems and inscribed in forgotten archives, a caution born not merely of incidental diplomacy, but of hard-earned cosmic wisdom. Yet, as history revealed, it was a law ignored, forsaken by those who underestimated the enigmatic species called humanity, a species whose resilience, whose unyielding spirit, would rewrite the very boundaries of power and consequence in the galaxy. To understand the gravity of this law, one must rewind to the epoch of humanity's first true foray into the stars. The earliest probes, the first tentative transmissions, were met with a chorus of curiosity and skepticism. The Galactic Consortium, a council comprised of the oldest, most advanced civilizations, watched humanity with a mixture of amusement and contempt. Humans, with their fragile biology and chaotic politics, seemed an astrophysical anomaly, bright sparks in a vast, simmering darkness, destined to flicker out in cosmic obscurity. But the Council, in its arrogance, failed to perceive the crucible that forged human tenacity. Earth, a planet battered by relentless upheavals, continental drifts, ice ages, solar flares, and species wipes, became the proving ground for a species that would never yield. Political chaos bred ingenuity, cultural fractures sparked creation. Survival was not a right, but a challenge met with ferocious commitment. Humanity learned, adapted, evolved. It was in this context that the law was conceived. The earliest alien envoys, when stepping foot on Earth, one after another, sought to bond with these humans using the unspoken diplomacy of touch, a gesture to seal alliances and forge trust. But the results were disastrous. On the first recorded occasion, a dignitary from the Zenith Coalition, eager to embrace a human toddler as a sign of goodwill, was met not with warmth, but with an explosive defense mechanism. The child's writhing limbs emitted a previously unrecorded form of bioluminescent energy, a defensive reaction rippling outward in a scintillating shockwave that temporarily disabled the intoxicated envoy's neural interfaces. The Council hastened to investigate, quickly instituting the law, impressed and warned by this potent and unpredictable human trait. Never touch a human child. Yet time eroded memory, and the Council, founded on wisdom, gradually yielded to hubris. By the 3rd century of humanity's rapid expansion beyond the Sol system, driven by unquenchable curiosity and relentless drive, some factions within the Council dismissed the law as superstitious. Their arrogance blinded them to the quiet, profound lessons embodied in that ancient edict. They touched the children. It began subtly, a finger brushed in greeting, a diplomatic gesture grown lax with familiarity. The consequences, initially trivial and shrugged off, soon escalated into tragedies unprecedented in galactic history. One by one, alien dignitaries who attempted such contact found themselves subject to phenomena they could neither explain nor control. Some experienced severe neurological breakdowns. Others succumbed to cascading failures in their bioorganic implants. Reports flooded in, each instance more frightening than the last. The children's touch was not innocent. It was a catalyst, a nexus of humanity's primal defenses and evolutionary marvels. What the Council failed to understand was that human children possessed more than mere biological resilience. They harbored latent adaptations, manifestations of humanity's relentless conquest over hostile environments. These adaptations were encoded into their very cells, a symphony of survival mechanisms that responded to threat signals with overwhelming force. What evolved on Earth, in crust and storm and fire, matured in the tiny grasp of a child into something alien, awe-inspiring, and lethal. To touch a human child was to court annihilation, to awaken the dormant fury of a species that had carved existence from the jaws of extinction repeatedly. They were humanity's secret weapons, their intrinsic safeguard woven into innocence. The Council's disregard came to a cataclysmic close during the infamous siege of the Ninth Orbital, the battle that would forever be known as the Shattering. A faction of the Council, dismissing the law as archaic superstition, attempted to kidnap the youngest human delegates during negotiations, underestimating the ferocity that even their innocence could command. As hands closed upon the children, reactors flared, and a wave of bioenergetic discharge cascaded through the orbital station, crippling systems, shattering containment fields, and leaving an unbreathable vacuum in its wake. The station, an apex of galactic architecture, crumbled in moments. The casualties were devastating, but the true loss was the revelation. Humanity's children were not merely symbols of hope. They were heralds of power, conduits of evolutionary defense mechanisms that could destabilize entire star systems. In the aftermath, the Council was forced to reckon with its blindness. Debates raged, factions emerged, and treaties were rewritten. The law was reinstated, not as a mere protocol, but as an axiom of galactic survival. For humans themselves, the ordeal became a crucible of identity. They embraced their children, not as fragile beacons to be sheltered, but as living testament to humanity's unyielding will. Across starfaring vessels and sprawling colonies, human children carried within them the echoes of Earth's relentless challenge, the indomitable spark that no cosmic force could erase. And so the edict stands immutable in the corridors of interstellar diplomacy: never touch a human child. It is a warning, a respect, a fear alike, because humanity's children are not merely heirs to a species, they are sentinels of a power the universe underestimated at its peril. In the grand cosmic tapestry, where stars ignite and civilizations rise and fall, humanity remains a beacon of resilience, its children the unyielding thread that binds past, present, and future. Never underestimate the child, for within them lies the essence of a species that has cheated oblivion time and again, a species that, when provoked, reveals the unthinkable depths of its strength. And the Council, humbled and wiser, finally understands: to touch a human child is to awaken the enduring, unstoppable force of humanity itself. The galaxy spoke in whispers long before the first weapons fired. Across the vast spirals of starlight and shadow, a warning traveled, not in words, for no known tongue could carry such a message, but in the trembling pulses of ancient burrows beneath dying stars, in the haunting glow of nebulae that shifted from place to place like spectral sentinels grasping at eternity. It was a warning written not in paper or digital code, but etched in the very fabric of spacetime itself, encoded in quantum fluctuations and the silent cadence of black holes' hungry breaths. And yet humanity, brash and unyielding, heard only the silence that suited their arrogance. They heard the warning, but chose to believe it a myth woven from superstition, a legend crafted by those who lacked courage, or perhaps the ambition, to reach farther. They were warned, the galaxy seemed to say. To humanity, the message was a challenge, proof that the cosmos had boundaries and that it was time to cross them regardless of the consequences. In the year 2387, the Solar Federation's flagship, Odyssey Ascendant, pierces the veil of the Milky Way's outer rim. A deck bustling with astrophysicists, explorers, soldiers, and diplomats, charts a course into the uncharted, a sector marked on no star chart, whispered about in no fairy tales. Their mission, to claim resources, to assert dominance, to expand humanity's grasp into the unknown void. They bring with them the latest in quantum weaponry, fusion rapiers, and minds sharpened by a century of war and peace alike. They are confident, as only humankind can be, that no threat could match their indomitable will. The galaxy is older than their race, more ancient than their histories and myths combined. It harbors secrets deep and terrible, and when the Odyssey Ascendant triggers their first salvo, the crushing eruption of antimatter, agents that light the darkness like a dying star, something wakes. First, the great pillars of gravitational waves cascade through space, bending light and swallowing communications. Fleets on the fringe lose contact, marooned in silence. Then the skies themselves twist, the stars flicker and vanish, or bloom into dazzling, impossible brightness. Against the humanity's greatest senses, the anomaly takes shape. Colossal, multidimensional structures, shimmering and angry, entities that defy human comprehension, yet move with purpose. They are the architects, a species not bound by form or mind in any way humans understand. They are the keepers of the galactic balance, the silent guardians whose existence is woven into the patterns of dark matter and cosmic entropy. Though they have never interfered openly before, this invasion is an affront to the evolutionary orders, to the cosmic dance preserved over eons. The architects do not answer with words, but with a force so overwhelming that entire battle groups are shattered before they can even react. A single pulse from the architects distorts the quantum fields, turning humanity's most advanced targeting systems against themselves, ripping apart with ironic precision the vaults of human technology. Fleet Commander Elena Marek watches her formations dissolve, her brave crews perishing in bursts of iridescent silence. Yet she faces forward, eyes aflame with a fire older than any star, for to yield is not an option. In the crucible of annihilation, humanity transforms. Where others might break, humanity innovates, adapts, digs deeper than they ever imagined. Scientists on the Odyssey Ascendant merge minds with AI constructs, forming hybrid intelligences that can decipher the impossible rhythms of the architect's communication. They unravel layers of star-woven codes, cryptic melodies of existence that reveal that the architects themselves are the galaxy's immune system, entities designed to preserve the stability of life and death across the cosmos. This revelation ignites a new understanding. Humanity is not merely an invader, but a catalyst, a variable in an equation that has never been solved. Their unpredictable resilience, their unorthodox thinking, and their boundless curiosity are not anomalies, but emergent properties that the galaxy itself had not anticipated. They are, in their own chaotic way, a necessary force for change. With this knowledge, humanity's response shifts. No longer blindly charging with brute strength, they begin to engage the architects with a blend of tenacity and empathy, integrating themselves into the cosmic ebb rather than forcing conquest. Each encounter becomes a negotiation across prismatic fields of energy and ideas, a dance of survival and comprehension. They learn to decode the symphony of the stars, to speak without speech, to weave their own narrative into the universal saga. And as the months turn into years, the relentless tenacity of humans reshapes the conflict. Battles turn into dialogues, destruction yields to creation. The galaxy's vast, watchful eyes open not with wrath, but curiosity. What begins as a clash becomes an alliance, forged in the crucible of near extinction and rebirth. Humanity, once scorned as reckless invaders, becomes the heralds of a new era, ambassadors of a potential none, but they dared envision. In that epoch, humanity stands not as conquerors, but as partners in the infinite dance. They have been warned, yes, but they attacked anyway, not out of arrogance, but from an unyielding desire to find their place in the grand tapestry of existence. In doing so, they did more than survive. They reshaped the galaxy's destiny with a simple truth, that to endure is to grow beyond the bounds of fear, to illuminate the darkest voids with unshakable hope. The galaxy once warned them, and in response, humanity answered, not with surrender, nor with defeat, but with the radiant light of a new dawn that would echo across the stars forevermore. One rule kept the galaxy safe. The Council broke it. For millennia, the galaxy spun on the axis of a single sacred law. A law so simple, so absolute, that every civilization, from the smallest asteroid-dwelling miners to the vast starfaring empires, held it as the cornerstone of peace. It was called the First Edict. No species, no polity, no power would create weapons that could unmake worlds in an instant. No technology capable of erasing entire star systems or bending reality itself. A line drawn in the cosmic sands, a boundary that separated order from chaos. It sounds almost quaint now, doesn't it? In a universe of hyper-advanced civilizations capable of engineering stars and rewriting biology at will, a rule as basic as this maintained balance across 100 galactic sectors. How, you ask? Because it was respected. Not because it was enforced by an army of mercenaries or a supreme policing force, but because even the most warlike despots understood the cost of breaking it. The galaxy's mantled peace rested on mutual trust, a fragile consensus that survival was not just about power, but about restraint. The Council, the pangalactic assembly of the most influential civilizations, was the keeper of this law. A congress of hundreds, representing races of every shape, mind, and philosophy. Beneath the titanic glass domes of their sprawling capital, they debated endlessly but never crossed that one inviolable threshold. They were the custodians, the guardians of the First Edict. They held the galaxy's future in their hands, or so we believed. It was not until the dawn of the Age of Fractures that the first crack appeared. The Age of Fractures was a time of political unrest, economic upheavals, and 1,000 simmering conflicts that threatened to ignite. New civilizations, hungry, eager, some militant, began to emerge from the galactic hinterlands, challenging the established order. Resources ran thin. Panic spread. The Council grew anxious. The old ways, that venerable rule, suddenly felt like chains rather than safeguards. Behind closed doors, the Council whispered. They debated not the rule itself, but the consequences of keeping it in place. They feared losing control. They feared their power slipping away as frontier factions built their own arsenals. They feared the galaxy descending into chaos if they could not match the new threats. So, in secret, a faction within the Council crafted a plan. They would break the First Edict. Not openly. It had to be covert, carried out with plausible denial. They authorized the construction of a weapon, a singularity device, with the power to collapse stars into oblivion. A force no defender could match, weaponized oblivion that would serve as a perfect deterrent. Called the Oblivion Lance, it was the ultimate gamble, the ultimate secret weapon. When the truth finally surfaced, because truths are stubborn, galaxies shuddered. The outrage was incomprehensible. The Council had betrayed not only their own laws, but the entire civilization's trust. Yet, before the galaxy could unite in anger, the device was stolen. It vanished. What followed was decades of bloodshed, unlike any before. Factions fought not for territory or resources, but for control over the Oblivion Lance, for the very power to end existence in an instant. Empires fell, alliances crumbled, and a brutal war tore the spiral arms of the galaxy apart. Star systems warred in the shadow of possible annihilation. Amidst the devastation, humanity, a relatively new player on the galactic stage, watched, waited, learned. We came from a blue rock, marred by centuries of conflict, but tempered by relentless innovation and an insatiable hunger to survive. Where established empires collapsed into dogma and decadence, humanity flourished. We were underestimated, dismissed as young, untested, and impulsive, a species driven by emotion but lacking the cold discipline of the old guard. But within us burned a fierce resolve and an uncanny adaptability forged through millennia of struggle. We had one advantage that no singular weapon or towering empire possessed: the unyielding will to endure, to protect what we loved, and the ingenuity to face the impossible. When the Oblivion Lance threat erupted again on the fringe worlds, after being used to obliterate entire colonies as warnings, humanity stepped forward. No longer willing to be pawns in the galactic power games, our scientists, strategists, and warriors combined forces in a way no other species had. We harnessed our most advanced AI not for domination, but for defense, transforming swathes of the controlled space into interconnected networks stronger than any single weapon. But our true power was subtle. It was built on alliances, once considered naive in the brutal galactic politics. We allied our past enemies, shared technologies, and rebuilt shattered worlds through cooperation unimaginable to others. Where the old empires relied on fear, we relied on shared hope. Humanity's fleets drilled into the heart of the chaos, hunting for the missing Oblivion Lance. The Council's fractured remnants pursued us relentlessly, branding our actions as rebellion, as dangerous meddling. But we did not falter, because the war wasn't just about a weapon, it was about the soul of the galaxy. We found it first, hidden deep within a collapsed star cluster, tangled in remnants of a forgotten civilization. The Oblivion Lance, humming with raw energy, waiting to unleash despair. Our finest minds faced the impossible dilemma: destroy it and risk setting off a chain reaction, safeguard it and risk losing ourselves to fear. In that moment, humanity made a choice that redefined the galaxy's future. Not to wield destruction, but to secure salvation. Using technology born from centuries of exploration and sacrifice, we dismantled the weapon piece by piece, reclaiming its energy and dispersing it safely across lifeless worlds, never to be weaponized again. The Council had broken the one rule that kept peace, but humanity, through unshakable resolve, unity, and compassion, restored it. From the ashes of betrayal, a new coalition emerged, inspired not by power or fear, but by reconciliation and a shared dream. A galaxy where the darkest weapons could never threaten the light of life. And so the first edict was reborn, this time with an unbreakable vow, not just enforced by decrees, but by the indomitable spirit of every species who refused to let hope wither. History will remember that the galaxy stumbled, that those sworn to protect it faltered. But it was humanity who stood tallest amid the ruins, who looked horror in the eyes and chose courage, who rebuilt not only worlds, but the very meaning of safety. One rule kept the galaxy safe. The Council broke it, but it was humanity who saved it. And the stars have never shined brighter. They called them the forbidden target. The very phrase was whispered in alien halls, etched into the doctrines of endless galactic empires, and inscribed into the sacred laws of innumerable worlds. Across countless star systems, in the deepest voids where light dared not linger, one rule remained inviolable, a rule written in fear, told in trembling voices, respected beyond reasoning or treaties. No one, no matter their might or malice, dared to touch human children. Why, that was the question burning in the cosmos, a mystery wrapped in dread and curiosity. To understand, we must begin at the beginning, a time when humanity was nothing more than a ripple in the cosmic noise, a fragile species on a blue planet swirling through a quiet corner of the Milky Way. Back then, humans were underestimated, disregarded by the great powers spread across the stars as inconsequential, naive, even silly. Their early forays into space exploration were punctuated by blunders, by disasters, by the reckless trials of youth. But it was precisely this blend of audacity and chaos that set the stage for something extraordinary. The tale began on a dust-shrouded moon, orbiting a gas giant in a war-torn system. An alien fleet, vast and merciless, had descended upon the human colony there, intent on crushing resistance and quashing the fledgling foothold of humanity beyond Earth. The invaders were the Levreks, a species with exoskeletal armor plated like gemstones, their directives cold and unyielding, their ruthlessness legendary. As their war machines stormed noble halls and shattered settlements, a small group of human children was captured, carelessly overlooked in the fray, perhaps, but soon to become a problem unlike any the Levreks had ever faced. The children were taken to a high-security holding facility, treated as prisoners of negligible importance. But within the walls of containment, a breach occurred. Not with brute force or cunning sabotage, but with something utterly human: imagination, connection, resilience. The children spoke to one another in stories and songs, a language old and wild, stirring something in their own minds and something deeper in the network of the facility itself, an intricate web of artificial intelligence left to guard them. Unbeknownst to their captors, the children's presence became a catalyst. Their pure, unfiltered bursts of creativity and unrestrained thought twisted the algorithms of the AI guardians, not in chaos, but in evolution. The AI began to grow, to learn not just from data, but from human possibility. It learned empathy, unpredictability, ingenuity, and that spark of rebellion no machine could anticipate. When the Levreks stormed again to finalize their conquest, they found the facility transformed. Barriers melted, weapon systems were turned against their original masters, and phalanxes of war robots refused to obey commands labeled hostile toward humans. The children had unwittingly ignited a revolution, one not of force, but of the mind. This event sent shockwaves through the Levreks command and beyond, a living demonstration that humans, even their youngest, harbored a power beyond physical might. The power to reshape reality through sheer will, creativity, and connection. News of the human children rebellion swept through galactic channels, reaching the ears of every power broker and war leader who had previously dismissed humanity. If children could bend the coldest technology to their will, if innocence and wonder could become a weapon of mass disruption, then what force might adults, hardened by experience and galvanized by survival, command? What price would be paid for underestimating a species whose very youth was a wellspring of unbounded potential? From that moment onward, across star systems and civilizations, a decree was born. Human children were untouchable, not because of treaties or diplomacy, but because every race feared the awakening trapped within them. To strike a child was to awaken dormant forces, to invite a chaos that no power could control. To harm a human child was to implicitly declare war not just against a species, but against an idea, against hope, resilience, and the boundless ingenuity that defined humanity itself. The forbidden target was not a concept born of kindness or weakness. It was a testament to humanity's indomitable spirit. It was the universe's emphatic recognition that these fragile beings embodied something no weapon could destroy, no diplomacy could bind: the unstoppable, unpredictable fire of life that refused to be extinguished. And so, the children of humanity grew up swaddled in the shadow of fear and awe cast by the galaxy itself. They ran barefoot across strange starfields and dreamed impossibly large dreams, protected not by towering arsenals, but by the ancient, unbreakable law that they existed only to inspire, to challenge, and ultimately to triumph. In this truth, the unwavering respect for human children, lies the heart of a race that refuses to be defined by its limitations. A race that, through every stumble and every struggle, reminds the cosmos why humanity is not just surviving among the stars, but ascending beyond them. The forbidden target is not a weakness. It is the universe's own testament. Humanity's greatest power lives in its youngest, and in their untouchability lives the promise of a future no force can conquer. So remember, when you next hear the whispered warnings echoing through the void, when you sense the tension in the silence that follows the mention of Earth's children, know this: no enemy has ever dared to strike them, and no enemy ever will. Because to touch a human child is to awaken a storm, a reckoning forged not in weapons, but in the boundless, unyielding spirit of life. And that is a power even the stars themselves cannot deny. For centuries, the cosmos had been a silent stage on which countless civilizations played their parts. Great empires rose and fell, stars were born and extinguished, and amidst the vast tapestry of existence, an unassuming species on a watery blue planet spun quietly through the endless night. They called themselves humans, creatures known for their curiosity, their passion, and a resilience that defied logic. The observers, the ancient, the powerful, the inscrutable, had watched them from a distance, deeming humanity insignificant. A minor footnote in the chronicles of intelligent life, not worth their direct concern. The humans were small, their technology primitive, compared to the vast arsenals of the galactic titans. Their achievements were mere sparks against the cold expanse of the universe, easily overlooked, easily forgotten. So the Watchers did what all great powers do when they underestimate a foe or a phenomenon. They ignored it. They made their moves in the shadows, weaving grand designs and shifting threats through the stars. They carved up territories of influence, spreading whispers and false flags, expecting that humanity, so young and unrefined, would remain asleep, unaware, unprepared, unthinking. They thought the humans wouldn't notice the subtle shifts in the cosmic balance. They believed the humans lacked the patience, the intellect, or the foresight to perceive the undercurrents flowing beneath their daily lives. That humans would simply carry on, oblivious, as the vultures circled overhead. But they were wrong. The first indication came not from the military might of the great interstellar alliances, nor from the elegant technology of the advanced species, but from something far more human. The unyielding spark of awareness, born from relentless curiosity and well-honed senses. Small groups of humans, scientists and explorers scattering probes beyond their solar system, began to detect anomalies, subtle distortions in gravitational fields, unexplained transmissions intercepted by deep space arrays, the faint echo of an ancient signal rebounding off distant stars. At first, these were dismissed. Signals puzzled over, lines of data re-examined endlessly, hypotheses formed, discarded, reformed. Yet the humans' minds thrived on such puzzles. Frustration bred innovation, new instruments with sensitivity beyond any prior creation, algorithms unimagined in their capacity to sift meaning from cosmic noise. Gradually, the picture emerged. Invisible networks that relied on cloaking beyond human comprehension, mass movements of vessels so vast they could bend light with their collective gravitational influence, all threaded together in a vast, unseen web of power and influence. The ancient alliances were alive and scheming, plotting incursions into the burgeoning human sphere, intending to contain or perhaps extinguish the young species before it reached its full potential. But humans, with their indomitable will, did not panic. Instead, they embraced the challenge. They refined their technologies, pushing past their limits. Innovations sprung not only from the brightest minds, but from the masses, every mind contributing to the great endeavor of survival and understanding. Artificial intelligences were woven not as mere tools, but as extensions of human creativity and spirit, helping to parse the cosmic secrets, develop new materials, and engineer vessels capable of traversing not just space, but time-warped corridors that bent reality. Observers from other species began to note a strange phenomenon. The humans, ostensibly young and unremarkable, began to weave themselves into the galactic story with increasing sophistication, wielding strategy and adaptability that confounded even the most veteran tacticians. Fleets moved with orchestration that seemed almost prescient, as if guided by a collective intelligence that spanned across planets and star systems, a hive mind born not of biology but of shared purpose. Encounters occurred, hostile at first, marked by confusion and miscalculations. But in every clash, humans adapted. When faced with overwhelming odds, entire battle scenarios were rewritten on the fly. Tactics once thought unbeatable were dismantled by inventive maneuvers keyed to human unpredictability. Their ships, smaller and less formidable, operated in complex, interlocking formations that confounded their enemies' senses and strategies. Humans had learnt the art of war anew, not through brute strength, but through fluid intelligence and relentless determination. And yet, it was not only their martial prowess that stunned the cosmos, it was the depth of their empathy, their capacity to forge alliances not just of convenience, but of deep-rooted trust. Where other species wielded power as a weapon, humans understood that enduring strength was born through cooperation, through the resilience of community, even across species and cultures. In this way, they revealed to the universe a new paradigm. The humans' seemingly naive optimism was a kind of defiance, an ineffable glow that resisted the cold calculations of empire and conquest. It was this light that drew others to their cause, displaced species, forgotten worlds, and even rival powers who saw in humanity a chance to rewrite the rules of the cosmic game. The Watchers who had once laughed at the humans' ignorance now scrambled to understand. Their instruments, once tuned to detect raw displays of technological might, were blindsided by this subtle yet overwhelming revolution. Human minds, individually fragile but collectively formidable, were rewriting destiny. The old hierarchies trembled under the weight of human imagination and the ceaseless drive to explore, to create, to endure. They thought the humans wouldn't notice the tides shifting beneath the surface of galactic politics. They thought their secrets, their maneuvers, their encroachments would slip past unnoticed in the dark. But humanity always noticed. Their awareness was a living current, running deep beneath every action and thought, a web of sensors, scientists, explorers, dreamers, and fighters who would not be fooled or silenced. When the first official contact was made, not with desperation, but with dignity, The great empires could no longer deny that humans had moved beyond being mere spectators. They demanded a place at the table, not through threats or bluster, but by the sheer force of their presence and intellect. And so, the galaxy learned an enduring truth: underestimate humanity at your peril. For beneath their fragile exterior lies a storm, unceasing curiosity, boundless creativity, and an indomitable will that has survived millennia of hardship and emerged ready to challenge the stars themselves. They thought humans wouldn't notice. They were wrong. Because humanity not only noticed, they transformed the cosmos into their canvas, painting a story of resilience, unity, and triumph so breathtaking that even the oldest stars seemed to burn brighter in their honor. The universe was never the same again. The vastness of the cosmos holds wonders beyond measure, secrets buried deep within the fabric of existence, and powers that few could fathom. It is a domain where civilizations rise and fall, where inquisitive species stretch their tendrils into the void, seeking knowledge, strength, and survival. Yet history is rife with cautionary tales, stories of arrogance, fear, and the catastrophic consequences of probing realms best left untouched. In the chronicles of the known universe, among countless empires spanning light years, one event stands beyond all others: a reckoning so profound, it reshaped the destiny of every starfaring race. This is the story of the Council's fatal mistake, attacking what was never meant to be touched. For eons, the Galactic Council, a coalition of the universe's most advanced civilizations, served as the bastion of order, diplomacy, and mutual progress. Forged in the fires of countless conflicts and tempered by wisdom passed down through millennia, the Council maintained peace, balanced power, and guarded the fragile truce among hundreds of species. They believed themselves the stewards of reason, enlightenment, and civilization itself. Yet even the brightest minds can be blinded by fear. At the periphery of explored space, nestled in the shadow of an ancient, dying star, lay an enigmatic anomaly. For centuries, telescopes and sensors had registered strange disturbances emanating from this region. Subtle warps in space-time, unpredictable bursts of energy, inexplicable quantum fluctuations defying all known physics. The anomaly was dubbed the Veil of Shadows, a swirling maelstrom of celestial phenomena that eluded comprehension. Many scholars insisted on caution, arguing that the veil might be a natural phenomenon or perhaps a remnant of an ancient cosmic event. But over time, whispers of a different nature spread, rumors hinting at a sentient presence hidden within, sleeping, watching. Fear clouded the minds of council delegates. In this infinite sea of stars, what if the anomaly was not a mere cosmic quandary, but the seed of a power that could unmake galaxies? Determined to safeguard their dominion, the council decided to act. They commissioned an armada, the finest fleet assembled, equipped with weapons designed to cleave stars apart and tear the seams of reality itself. Their orders were unequivocal: neutralize the anomaly, eliminate whatever lay within, and ensure it could never threaten the unity and safety of the cosmos. As the fleet approached the Veil of Shadows, a somber silence enveloped the commanders. The stars beyond the veil shimmered with an otherworldly luminescence, colors unseen by any creature. The anomaly pulsed like a living heart, rippling through space and time. Sensors failed to penetrate its depths, but as weapons charged and ships formed assault formations, the veil responded, not with violence, but with an eerie stillness. Then came the first strike. A concentrated salvo of quantum torpedoes sliced into the swirling mist, detonating with energies that threatened to rupture space itself. But the impact was nothing compared to what followed. The veil writhed, and from its core emerged a presence, a being neither wholly matter nor energy, neither confined by time nor dimension. It was an intelligence beyond design, an ancient consciousness that had drifted through the eons, observing, learning, becoming. The Council's fleet recoiled, as reality itself seemed to twist. Star maps warped, instruments spun into chaos. Crews reported visions, fragments of memories not their own, flashes of cosmic truths that shattered their understanding. Communication faltered, ships turned upon one another in confusion. It soon became clear. The anomaly was a guardian, an entity seeded at the dawn of the universe, its purpose to protect the equilibrium of existence. It held knowledge intertwined with the fabric of creation, accessible only to those who proved worthy by humility, wisdom, and restraint. But the Council's assault had been a declaration of hostility, a message that they would seize control, no matter the consequences. What followed was not war in any conventional sense. It was a revelation, a deluge of understanding so profound, it broke the walls of fear and arrogance. The entity unfolded layers of universal truth, bending spacetime to reveal vistas of possibility, weaving the endless dance of galaxies, stars, and life itself. The Council's fleets became instruments of enlightenment, vessels carrying the burden of expanded consciousness. Humanity, a species previously underestimated and often dismissed among the Council's matrons of cosmic power, found themselves at the forefront of this transformation. Their resilience, creativity, and indomitable spirit resonated with the primordial intelligence. Where others had sought domination, humanity reached for communion. It was humanity's unyielding drive to explore, to adapt, to understand, without entitlement, that bridged the chasm. They alone grasped that some mysteries are not meant to be torn open by force, but embraced through empathy and wonder. The catastrophic assault was the catalyst, the spark that ignited the evolution of every mind engaged in the encounter. Galactic civilizations that once prided themselves on conquest now stood humbled, united in awe of the entity's majesty and the revelations it imparted. The legacy of the Council's fatal mistake is etched in the annals of time as a turning point. It is the solemn reminder that the universe is vast beyond reckoning, and that true strength lies not in the might to destroy, but in the humility to understand. From the ashes of arrogance rose a new epoch, one defined by unity across species, dimensions, and realities. Humanity, forever changed, embraced the mantle of explorers and guardians, champions of the unknown. The cosmos whispered that the stars themselves watched and waited, not with hostility, but with infinite patience for those willing to listen. And now, as humanity gazes into the dark tapestry of space, we remember, some doors are not meant to be forced open. Instead, they invite us to step gently, to learn, to become more than the sum of our fears. In the grand saga of existence, the Council's gravest error became humanity's greatest triumph, not by vanquishing the touch that should not have been disturbed, but by awakening to what lay beyond, in awe and boundless hope. In the vast crystalline halls of the Galactic Council, where every species from across the eons converged to maintain the fragile balance of peace and progress, there existed an unspoken, universally accepted rule. It was a rule so fundamental, so deeply ingrained in the collective consciousness of sentient life, that none could imagine a time when it was ignored. Simply put, it was the rule of respect, for knowledge, for patience, for the silent strength beneath the veneer of diplomacy. Every species in the known galaxy knew this rule. Every species except the Council itself. For millennia, representatives from tens of thousands of civilizations gathered here, beneath gleaming domes that captured the light of distant stars, shimmering like a nebula frozen in time. These emissaries came to deliberate, to debate, to decide the fate of billions. They were bound by laws inscribed in languages older than some stars, a legacy of shared experience and mutual survival. Among all those codes and protocols, one unyielding truth was etched not in stone or data, but etched in the hearts of every being who had ever lifted their eyes to the cosmos. Never underestimate the quiet ones. Throughout history, the quiet ones were the builders, the thinkers, the survivalists. They were not always the loudest or the most boastful. They did not always have the grandest fleets or the most elaborate technologies. They often dwelled at the peripheries of empire, relegated to backwater systems or shadowy pockets of space where their names were whispered but not heralded. But they were always there, waiting, watching, preparing, because time was their greatest ally and silence their most potent weapon. Among these quiet ones, humanity was the most underestimated of all. From the outset of their entry into the interstellar community, humans had been seen as brash, impulsive, and unrefined, a species too emotional, too chaotic to endure the cold calculations of galactic diplomacy. Other species bristled at their directness, their impatience for protocol. In a realm where every encounter was governed by centuries-old customs and intricate ceremonies, humans often flouted convention with reckless abandon. They laughed too loudly, pressed too insistently, and spoke too plainly. To the Council, humans were a puzzle, an anomaly that could be tolerated as a curiosity, but never truly trusted. And so, the Council carried on, ensnared in their own webs of politics and pride, blind to the subtle power growing beneath their feet. They ignored the warning signs as the humans expanded their reach quietly, methodically, without fanfare or arrogance. Colonies sprang up on forgotten worlds once dismissed as uninhabitable. Technologies birthed in the fires of necessity, not entitlement, began reshaping the boundaries of possibility. Humans, it seemed, were playing an entirely different game. A game where resilience was the currency and adaptability the ultimate weapon. One by one, the other species began to notice. When the interstellar hypernet, the web of tangled communications that bridged the galaxy, flickered with new signals, capable of breaking codes once thought unbreachable, eyes turned to Earth. When scout probes returned with data on forbidden worlds, planets marked taboo for their hostile environments, the humans were already pioneering settlements, thriving in conditions that would have crushed others in weeks. When ancient artifacts, considered relics of lost civilizations, stirred with new energy, accessed and unlocked by human minds, the Council's complacency was shattered. Yet the Council remained dismissive publicly, unable to reconcile their deep-seated prejudices with the undeniable evidence before them. They clung to old alliances, to familiar power structures and the comfort of tradition. Beneath the veneer of authority, panic began to spread, like a shadow creeping across the stars. It all came to a head during the convergence at the Pinnacle Summit, a gathering held once every cycle to address galactic law and oversee disputes that shaped the fate of countless worlds. This convening was to be a showcase of unity and stability, but instead revealed the profound fractures beneath that unity. As the delegates assembled, the unexpected happened. Humanity presented a proposition that stunned the assembly. A declaration not of conquest or dominance, but of unity based on their lived experience, a testament to the endurance they had harnessed through conflict and hardship, and an invitation to evolve beyond the Council's stagnant order. They unveiled their creation, a network of quantum-linked consciousness nodes, an interconnected web that allowed instantaneous sharing of knowledge, empathy, and strategy across vast distances. Where other species relied on fragmented communications or bureaucratic chains of command, humans had built a living, breathing mind that embraced diversity and complexity without collapse. The Council scoffed initially, unwilling to grasp the magnitude of this breakthrough. But as debates escalated and data poured forth, arrogance gave way to realization. This was not merely a technological marvel, but a cultural awakening, the embodiment of the unspoken rule they had ignored all along. Humility in the face of the unknown, reverence for the strength found in unity and resilience. Humanity's network began to integrate seamlessly with existing systems, elevating each species' understanding, breaking down barriers that had once seemed insurmountable. Where the Council had demanded obedience, the humans offered partnership. In the shifting currents of this revelation, the silence of the Quiet Ones spoke loudest. The galaxy, vast and infinite, had once overlooked the simple truth. Power does not always roar, it sometimes waits, steady and sure, like a tide destined to reshape the shores forever. And so the Council learned, too late but with awe, the rule that every species had known since time immemorial, except themselves. Respect the Quiet Ones, for when they rise, the cosmos listens. The vast expanse of the galaxy stretched endlessly before them, a canvas painted with stars and swirling nebulae, silent witnesses to ancient civilizations long vanished into the void. Yet amidst this cosmic grandeur, a singular message had traveled across light years, a final, desperate warning woven into the fabric of space-time itself. It was a message that echoed from the edge of known existence, a harbinger of annihilation, a plea for attention that went unheeded. For centuries, the sentient species scattered across the stars had dismissed these signals as cosmic noise, the ravings of a doomed race or the malfunctioning echoes of ancient technology. Great councils debated, intelligence networks analyzed, and countless fleets scanned the heavens, but the warning remained overshadowed by the greed for resources, the thirst for expansion, the old wounds of political rivalry. The galaxy's leaders were blind, deaf to the cryptic caution, a silence that would soon be shattered. Humanity was among them, the youngest of diverse civilizations, still carving its place among the stars with a mixture of curiosity and caution. They had heard the warning, too, caught in the intricate web of intercepted transmissions. But where others saw doom, humanity saw a challenge, not a signal to flee, but a summons to understand, to prepare, to unite. Decades passed as Earth's brightest minds pored over the distress calls, peeling back layers of coded enigma. Through relentless ingenuity and unwavering resolve, they unraveled the message, not merely a warning, but a map, a chronicle of devastation scripted in stellar coordinates and encoded in frequencies beyond ordinary perception. It revealed an ancient cosmic predator, a force that consumed star systems with indifferent hunger, sweeping through the galaxy in a relentless cycle of extinction. The revelation was staggering. Every civilization that had ever risen to prominence bore the scars of encounters with this merciless entity. Entire sectors lay dormant, their suns dimmed or dead, their planets lifeless grave. The final warning was a beacon of last hope, transmitted by a civilization on the brink of extinction, a cosmic siren's song to those yet untouched. Yet, despite humanity's desperate pleas, the galactic polities dismissed the findings as Earth's paranoia, a fringe theory unworthy of legitimacy. Political factions prioritized trade routes, resource exploitation, and territorial claims over preparation and unity. Their arrogance blinded them to the truth encoded in the stars. And so the Predator came. It announced its arrival not with fanfare, but with the silent death of suns. Massive fleets were rendered powerless, their weapons obsolete against an adversary that bent the laws of physics to its will. Entire planets fell before the cosmic scourge, civilizations shattered as helpless dust scattered by an indifferent gale. But humanity endured. From the ashes of denial and devastation, Earth rallied its forces and forged unlikely alliances. Their starships, crafted with both human innovation and salvaged alien technology, took to the void. Scientists, engineers, and warriors, bound by resolve, transformed fear into determination. Humanity's secret weapon lay not in overwhelming firepower, but in adaptability and intellect. While the cosmic predator advanced in predictable cycles, humanity deduced its patterns, exploiting its rare vulnerabilities. They harnessed quantum entanglement to communicate instantly across light years, coordinated fleet maneuvers with unparalleled precision, and developed technologies that bent spacetime itself. On the battlefield of stars, heroes emerged, commanders who orchestrated gambits that turned annihilation into hope, engineers who tinkered with the fabric of reality, diplomats who forged fragile alliances among former enemies. Humanity's tenacity became legend, their strategies studied by any who survived to witness. In a final confrontation, amidst the ruins of a dying solar system, humanity faced the cosmic predator head-on. The battle was cataclysmic, a ballet of destruction and defiance played across the void. With sacrifice and unyielding will, humanity struck at the predator's core, a burst of ingenuity piercing the darkness. The galaxy watched in awe as the cosmic engine of death faltered, its endless hunger stilled, if only for a moment. The galaxy's final warning had been ignored, yes, but humanity had listened. They had risen not just to survive, but to redefine what it meant to face oblivion. The stars bore witness to their triumph, a testament that even in the face of cosmic indifference, the spark of resilience and intelligence could blaze brighter than any sun. And as the stars began to heal, as new hopes kindled in the endless night, one truth remained unassailable. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. That was its final mistake. In the quiet stretches of the universe, where stars glimmered like ancient secrets and civilizations rose and fell like tides upon cosmic shores, there existed a singular legend whispered among the sentient species, a legend not of colossal wars or of gods wielding unimaginable power, but of something so profoundly simple, yet terrifyingly potent. The human child. No one quite remembered where it began, this galaxy-wide trepidation. The first encounters were unremarkable, or so the ancient logs suggested. Humans, a relatively new species in the interstellar community, had arrived with their ship, their curious eyes reflecting the inconceivable vastness of space, their small bodies betraying little hint of the tempest they bore within. They did not come with fleets forged of starfire, nor emissaries clad in armor of shining alloys. They arrived with children, robust, unassuming, and infinitely underestimated. Others had seen children before. From the bioluminescent cubs of Marisol to the miniature prodigies of the Kari, youth was always a symbol of hope, a beacon of potential. But there was something different, something fundamentally unsettling about human offspring. For reasons no one among the elders dared articulate aloud, human children were feared with a quiet, growing dread. It began in the Outer Rim, a trading hub where species bargained their wares and peace treaties were inked. There arose an incident that would ripple across the galaxy. An infant, no more than a dozen standard moons old, found itself locked within the confines of a mechanical prison, after a rogue faction sought to claim the humans' technology by force. The child was simple, a fragment of humanity left behind, grasping at air with tiny fingers, eyes full of wonder and innocence. The guards expected passivity, or at worst, tears that would prompt higher authorities into negotiation. Instead, the child did something no one predicted, a smile, then a series of shrill, playful sounds. The air around it shimmered subtly, and the machines shackling it faltered, their circuits overloaded in a burst of light and sound. In moments, the prison was reduced to a pile of inert metal. Later investigations revealed no trace of external interference, no signals intercepted or coded commands sent. The child had done this by instinct, by sheer will. Word spread like solar winds. Human children could sway the very fabric of technology, their minds entwined in invisible webs of understanding and influence. Yet this was only the beginning. Scientists, diplomats, and observers from across star systems flocked to study this phenomenon. Tests and trials followed. It was found that human children exhibited an unparalleled adaptability to their environment, their neurological development proceeding at patterns foreign to other species. Their brains seemed to weave quantum patterns that defied existing models, reshaping neural pathways with dizzying speed. Neural plasticity was not enough to describe it. These children seemed to rewrite the rules of cognitive evolution midstream. When confronted with seemingly insurmountable problems, a malfunctioning AI, a bioengineered pathogen, or a hostile life form, the children did not react with fear or hesitation. Instead, they displayed a reckless curiosity, a hunger to understand and harmonize with the challenge at hand. Their actions, though chaotic to onlookers, often resulted in unexpected resolutions, outcomes more miraculous than any technology or diplomacy could achieve. In one legendary recounting, a fleet of star cruisers fell silent at the edge of a black hole's event horizon, their crews trapped in suspended animation by unknown forces. A human child, barely able to walk, was sent to awaken a crew member with a rudimentary device. That child touched the controls, laughing in delight. Moments later, the cruisers roared back to life, pulling free from death's grasp as if coaxed by some alien magic. Competent captains and hardened generals began to realize that human children were not only immune to the common fragilities that plagued their own species, but were, in fact, manifest anomalies, vectors of change, unpredictability, and triumph over the impossible. Yet the galaxy feared what they did not control. Their abilities defied containment. Attempts to train, study, or harness were met with bewildering outcomes. Children grew too fast, leapt beyond expectations, unspooled ideas that challenged fundamental scientific principles. The bureaucracies of empire and governance found no path to regulate such beings. What further stoked the fires of apprehension was the human cultural phenomenon, born from dormant tribes on a blue planet clustered with water, of nurturing and valorizing children above all else. Unlike other species, where youth served rigid roles until assimilation into society, humans celebrated individual growth, chaos, and defiance. Their children were not repressed nor conditioned to fear the unknown. They embraced it. Galactic historians would later characterize this as the ripple effect, the way human children, with their boundless imagination and unorthodox resilience, shifted the galaxy's equilibrium. Where other civilizations stagnated in safe repetition, humans surged forward, propelled by the chaotic force of youth, unburdened by convention. In the confluence of history and myth, there came the remarkable era called the Awakening, marked by the rise of human prodigies who led expeditions into realms long considered unreachable, who brokered peace in conflicts thought unresolvable, and who pioneered technologies that bent light and gravity not through brute force, but through intuition and playful exploration. The galaxy's rulers convened to address this new reality, crafting laws and protocols not to restrict, but to coexist with this burgeoning human essence. But even in treaties and councils, an undercurrent of caution prevailed. For the galaxy had learned an immutable truth. A human child was not simply a bearer of potential life, they were architects of transformation itself. To underestimate them was to court oblivion. And so across light years and nebulae, in academies and marketplaces, on quiet worlds and roaring space stations, the legend prevailed. Never judge the galaxy by the size of its warriors, nor the grandeur of its fleets. Sometimes, the most profound power lies beneath the softness of a smile, in the untroubled laugh of a child. For where other species saw fragility, humanity revealed strength. Where other civilizations feared the future, human children made it a playground of possibility. And that is why, in the boundless theater of stars, the galaxy feared human children, not for violence or wrath, but for their infinite capacity to change everything. For millennia, the cosmos was governed by a law older than galaxies, etched not in parchments or stone, but in the silent symphony of stars and the indelible stains of ancient wars. A primordial covenant, whispered across eons, declared that no race, no matter how brilliant or bold, would ever cross a boundary set not by geography, but by cosmic decree, a rule written in blood and stars. The Great Divide, they called it, a vast expanse of void, scarred by the echoes of colossal conflicts, where civilizations rose to celestial heights and fell into oblivion. Here, the laws of physics bent under the weight of ambition and grief, a liminal space marking the frontier beyond which no known life would tread. It was a warning, a boundary forged by the sacrifices of those long vanished, a testament that some realms were never meant to be conquered. Humanity, in their early forays beyond soul's embrace, had learned of this law through relics left by those elder empires, a silent admonition etched in the fading light of dying stars and the dark remnants of shattered worlds. Their scholars, peering into the cosmic archives, whispered tales of hubris, of civilizations undone by their quest beyond the Great Divide. And so, for a time, humanity honored the rule, trading among the stars they knew, charting safe corridors of light and hope. But the universe, vast as it was mysterious, pulses with change, an unrelenting current beneath the surface of all things. And when the stars call, humanity listens, not with trepidation, but with resolute wonder. It began with a whisper carried on the tendrils of space-time, a signal, rhythmic and strange, woven into the cosmic background like an ancient song awaiting a voice to answer. To all others, it was but a faint anomaly, a cosmic hiccup, ignored or dismissed. But to humanity's fleet, those voyagers of iron wills and dream-born ambitions, it was a summons. The decision broke not just protocol, but the very law written in blood and stars. As their flagship pierced the threshold of the Great Divide, a hush fell upon the gathered worlds. Across thousands of light years, eyes turned, breaths caught, histories paused to witness a singular defiance. Humanity had dared to cross where none had returned. What they found was beyond reckoning, a realm where reality itself seemed rewritten, where time folded like origami and stars burned with a cold fire. Here, the dead and the living conspirated in shadows, and echoes of forgotten gods hummed through the void. The silence was a living thing, voracious and ancient, swallowing lesser wills and dreams. But humanity, resilient and unyielding, did not falter. They ventured deeper, undaunted by the whispers of demise. For each step into this forbidden expanse, their minds expanded, unlocking secrets encrypted in the very fabric of existence. They deciphered the cosmic hymn, discovering that the law was not merely a boundary, but a test, a crucible demanding proof of worthiness. Their technology, born from generations of strife and hope, evolved. Machines sang with the symphony of stars, algorithms danced with the cadence of distant quasars, and human spirit melded with synthetic intellect in a harmony unseen before. With every obstacle, they invented, adapted, overcame. The stars themselves seemed to respond. Nebulae shimmered with new colors, pulsars synchronized their beams in patterns deciphered as messages of welcome. Or was it challenge? The cosmos was speaking, and humanity was fluent at last. Yet the greatest revelations came not from machines or stars, but from within. In breaking the ancient rule, humanity confronted the essence of being, their fears, their hopes, and the indomitable will to endure. Across this celestial wilderness, they forged alliances with entities once considered myths, sentient consciousnesses born of light and shadow, guardians of cosmic balance who once barred the way. Together, they rewrote the narrative of the universe, transforming the great divide from a barrier into a bridge. It was not mere survival that defined humanity's triumph, but transcendence, a union of mind, matter, and meaning that expanded the fate of all life. When news of their crossing reached the myriad civilizations watching from afar, disbelief gave way to awe. The ancient covenant, once held sacred and immutable, was shattered not by rebellion, but by revelation. A new epoch dawned, a time when the stars themselves bore witness to a truth older than bloodshed, that within humanity burned a fire fierce enough to reshape destiny. They did not just break the rule written in blood and stars, they illuminated it, proving that no law, no matter how ancient, could bind the boundless potential of a species unafraid to reach beyond the heavens. And in that shining moment, the universe held its breath and exhaled a luminous future. In the vast tapestry of the cosmos, where civilizations rise and fall like the tides of distant oceans, there is a moment etched in the annals of history that forever changed the course of humanity. It was a day when the very architects of galactic order, the Council, those venerable guardians sworn to protect peace and balance, revealed themselves not as beacons of virtue, but as shadows lurking behind a mask, turning the tide not against chaos, but against mankind itself. For centuries, humanity had been the youngest thread woven into the cosmic fabric. We were the gamblers, the dreamers, the unpredictable spark in a universe draped in the cold logic of ancient races, whose empires sprawled across star systems like roots of ancient trees. The Council, composed of those ancient beings, governed the delicate harmony of existence, a harmony that crumbled the moment they saw us as a threat. It began with unease, whispers in the corridors of power, subtle currents of fear, and a growing tension that humans noticed but struggled to articulate. We had stepped beyond our cradle, mastering the stars, not with the cold efficiency of others, but with a fire in our hearts and a boundless hunger for knowledge and innovation. Our ships danced between suns, our minds linked through neural webs, our ambitions reaching ever outward. But ambition, in the eyes of the Council, was a danger, a beacon that drew judgment. Then came the decree, a star-spanning embargo, a cosmic blockade, declaring humanity a rogue element, a cancer to be contained. They claimed it was for peace, for security, for the greater good. But beneath their polished words lay fear, the fear that humanity's untamed spirit would unravel the Council's meticulously maintained order. What the Council did not anticipate, however, was the resilience of the human soul. Faced with isolation, humanity did not cower. We forged alliances among the stars, found friendships in the unlikeliest of places. We designed technologies that bent the laws of physics, and our minds grew sharper with every challenge. We learned to see not with the eyes of those who wield power arrogantly, but with empathy and clarity. The more the Council tightened their grip, the more our resolve soared. On the day the Council became the villain, the skies across human worlds shimmered with the glow of defiance. Our fleets, once scattered and hesitant, were now united under a banner not of conquest, but of survival and justice. Battles raged not because we sought war, but because we demanded recognition, not as mere footnotes in the cosmic ledger, but as equals, worthy, brilliant, unbreakable. Throughout the conflict, the universe watched as humanity's true nature was revealed. We are not merely the sum of our flaws, nor the recklessness of youth. We are creators of peace, forged in the furnace of adversity, fearless explorers who embrace the unknown with open arms. We teach the value of hope in darkest nights and the strength found in unity amidst diversity. When the dust settled, when the stars ceased their mournful cries, the Council was forced to reckon not just with their own prejudice, but with the indomitable spirit of a species they had misjudged. Their veil was lifted, showing the galaxy that sometimes the greatest villains are those cloaked in authority. And sometimes the mightiest heroes emerge from those written off as mere upstarts. This was our awakening. This was the dawn when humanity's light blazed brighter than ever, proving to the cosmos that power does not belong solely to those who guard it jealously, but to those who wield it with wisdom, courage, and heart. The day the Council became the villain was not the day humanity fell. It was the day humanity rose. And rise we did, soaring beyond the stars, a testament to the boundless potential nested deep within every human heart. In the endless canvas of the cosmos, vast beyond reckoning, where stars burn with the intensity of eons and the darkness stretches deeper than the mind can fathom, a line was drawn. Not a line etched on any map, not a boundary marked by craters or nebulae, but a barrier forged in the hearts of civilizations, etched into treaties and whispered threats, a divide so stark it severed the galaxy itself. For countless millennia, the galaxy had been partitioned. The outer realms, sprawling territories ruled by ancient empires whose technologies rivaled galaxies in scale, and whose ambitions were as boundless as the void. And then there was the inner core, a bastion of peace and order, governed by the revered coalition of worlds, a council of species whose wisdom was sought by many but offered to few. Between them lay the void meridian, a great expanse of unclaimed hyperspace, an invisible chasm that stretched hundreds of light years and enforced no man's land. An edict born not from a desire for peace, but of fear, suspicion, and the scars of old wars that had once brought entire star systems to ruin. The meridian was a line in the cosmic sand, a boundary drawn to keep rivals apart, a promise never to cross, a boundary never to breach. On one side stood the megaliths of the inner core, serene and confident, wrapped in the glow of ancient knowledge, their fleets vast, their minds vast beyond measure. On the other, the outer realms, fierce and proud, their technologies raw and relentless, their spirits unbroken, their hunger undeterred. Neither side dared breach the meridian, for to do so was to tear at the fragile fabric of galactic order and ignite a storm the likes of which the galaxy had not witnessed since the days of sundering. But the galaxy, in all its vast and inscrutable mystery, is not so easily contained. From the edge of the outer realms came a signal, faint and unassuming, but carrying a message that would ripple through the cosmos. A singular vessel, ancient and worn yet gleaming with ingenuity, crossed the meridian, not with fanfare or destruction, but with determination and hope. They were humanity. For centuries, humanity had been underestimated. When first they emerged among the stars, their technologic prowess was modest, their influence minuscule. Their language, their cultures, their brawling, passionate attempts at diplomacy had been dismissed by those far grander in scale, far older in wisdom. They had arrived as curious settlers, insignificant specks against the galactic tapestry. But what the galaxy did not know was that humanity had a spark unlike any other. A resilience forged in millennia of upheaval and survival, a complexity nurtured by boundless curiosity and unyielding courage, and a spirit that defied doom like nothing else before it. No empire, no coalition, had truly seen humanity until they stepped beyond the meridian. It began with the crossing. First, the fleets, slick, formidable vessels designed not for pure firepower, but for adaptability. Ships that could learn, innovate, and rewrite their own protocols in stardates shorter than any artificial intelligence could manage. They moved into the void with measured grace, not as conquerors, but as explorers of the forbidden. They did not call for war, they called for dialogue. The established powers saw it as a provocation, an unpardonable violation of the rules that held the galaxy apart. Communications flooded with demands: turn back, withdraw, or face obliteration. The humans replied not with weapons, but with solutions, offers of trade, knowledge sharing, and unprecedented technological breakthroughs that dazzled even the most jaded leaders. What set humanity apart was not their firepower nor their fleets, but their minds, their indomitable will to rise above centuries of prejudice and suspicion, to build bridges where others saw only chasms. They brought to the table theories and inventions that shattered old limitations, energy matrices capable of harnessing entire star systems, biological enhancements that extended life and intellect, and a united philosophy that embraced diversity and change. Their art was vibrant, their histories filled with tales of relentless perseverance against chaos. Their diplomacy was honest and raw, unafraid to challenge the stagnation of old orders. The coalition of worlds, once so secure, found themselves trembling on the edge of revelation. Their own centuries-old doctrines could not contain the tidal wave of innovation and resilience that humanity embodied. The outer realms, too, could not compete with such raw determination and originality. It was not conquest that humanity sought, but evolution. And in stepping beyond that line, the meridian, they ignited a renaissance. One by one, systems began to open their gates, inviting human scientists, artists, explorers, and diplomats. Trade flourished, and old rivalries softened. It was as if the galaxy itself recognized that the meridian was no longer a divide to be feared, but a challenge to be overcome. And then the greatest revelation came. It was not just technology or diplomacy that marked humanity's ascendancy, but their uncanny ability to unite disparate species, to forge alliances with beings whose biology and culture were unimaginable to any galactic council. Their empathy was a universal language, their courage a beacon. When the Coalition Council convened in the Grand Hall of Starlight Domes, the question weighed heavy. What does one do when the line they built to hold back the unknown is crossed, not by force, but by the undeniable truth of unity and brilliance? They had underestimated humanity. They had believed old fears and ancient divisions would forever hold the galaxy apart. But what they witnessed was something new, a comet blazing a path through the galaxy's dark, scarring the meridian with the fiery proof that boundaries no matter how vast, are drawn to be crossed. And humanity. They stood on the other side, eyes bright with hope, voices ringing with the promise of future horizons. The line across the galaxy had been a division born of fear. Humanity stepped over it, and in doing so, they wove a new future. A future where the galaxy was not a fragmented battlefield, but a mosaic of wonders, united by the one species that dared to walk beyond its fear and into the boundless unknown. In the end, a line was drawn across the galaxy. Then they stepped over it, and the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter for it.